How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes.
So last night we had the showcase for the Dubel Prize. You were a shortlisted artist.
I was, yeah.
How are you feeling at the moment?
Oh, amazing. I mean, last night was an exceptional event. The location was wonderful, and the arrangement of all my art, which I normally see in the spare room at home, or it was fantastic, and it was put on beautifully. I really enjoyed it.
It was a beautiful venue, wasn't it? And you had so many people out supporting you. I'm sure there's lots of people you didn't know and that you'd met and were saying kind things about your work. What was that feedback that you were getting, like in the while you're in the room there looking at your art?
I mean, I was slightly overwhelmed by the quality of the people and the way that they had sort of insight into sort of art in general, and lots of everything was very positive. Everyone was very complimentary. Even the art journalists that were there, that was very nice to hear. Yeah, really intrigued by some of this. Is a little bit mysterious and a little bit complicated to explain, I suppose, but it means something to me, and then trying to communicate that to people was a joy, actually. I really liked explaining what things meant and where it came from.
So your art does have obviously a lot of depth to it. It does make you think.
Right.
So while we've got this one right next to us, do you mind talking us through this and perhaps like your general inspirations?
Okay. So I tried to find a slightly grandiose theme to base a lot of my art on, and I landed on Greek mythology as a way of doing that. There's a lot of old masters and things that are based on Greek myths, and I thought I could just rework some of that and do it. So this is a painting which is about a character called Psyche, which is the girl in the middle, who is usually depicted as a butterfly, which is hence the kind of butterfly wings slightly. And the story is that she was the most beautiful woman on earth, and because she was so beautiful, offended Aphrodite, who was the god of beauty and love and things. And so Aphrodite sent her son Eros to marry her, or to get her out of the way, so Aphrodite could be the center of attention again. Eros went to find her, and instead of getting rid of her, fell in love with her because she was so beautiful. And so there's a love story behind the whole thing, which is a whole book in itself. And this is the point where Psyche goes to Eros, and she's never seen his face. Even though he fell in love with her, she's never seen his face. He comes to her in the middle of the night, but never during the day, so she doesn't know what he looks like. And her sisters convince her that he's a monster and he can't be seen in the day, a bit like the Hunchback of Notre Dame type thing. So she goes to find him to maybe kill him. This is the blade, a knife.
Oh wow!
Realizes when she gets to see him that he's not a monster. He is Eros, and he's the most beautiful man on earth. And so they fall in love and they get together. And so she sees him. The myth says that she fell to her knees and dropped the blade, which is what this is and what this is.
Wow.
So that's the layers of it, if you like.
Yeah.
Why it quite looks like that in terms of the way I've done it is a mystery to me as much as it is anyone else. It just kind of happened that way. But yes, that's the story of this. That's
incredible. So where was your kind of interest in Greek mythology to even start with a story like that?
I guess I've been interested in that a long time. Read books and tried to read the original things, but they're very impenetrable texts.
Very wordy.
Very wordy, yeah. I just love that, and like trying to find a big grandiose theme that was not religious. I wasn't going to offend anybody if I painted something like that. And like I say, lots of the old masters are based on Greek myths, and I love some of those huge, great, canvases that you see in the National Gallery that are the size of a wall and have angels and monsters and kind of conflict and love and all of that stuff. So big themes.
Yeah.
And that's why I landed on Greek
Huge
mythology.
Themes, and actually you've told an entire story just through one painting. Like, that is such a skill. That is such a skill for your mind to work like that. I mean, would you have ambitions of doing a huge like fresco style?
Yes, I would.
Really?
Yeah, if I could get a canvas big enough, I would spend I could definitely do that. I think there's a few myths that I've not attempted yet, just because they feel bigger than like this kind of size. This is a slightly encapsulated story in itself, but there's a whole load of Greek myths that are monstrous stories that would inspire me to do something big. Yeah.
Do you think you'd stick within the myth realm? Is that like a place you're kind of comfortable with? It's enough meat to kind of
there
work
definitely
with?
is. I mean, the stories are very intricate, and you can pick out small details and make images about them. I've done other things that are not Greek myths, but it does seem to be like quite a rich seam of story that you can base all sorts of angles on and all sorts of images on.
There is one work that we discussed last night and had more of a personal touch to you. So you also depict people and their stories within this kind of like surrealist thing. How do you find taking a story that's kind of not part of you, then taking someone who is quite personal to you and depicting them in that way? How do you even start to think about how you're going to depict them? Do you think of their characteristics and then note them down and think, how can I design this? What's that process?
Yeah, I did say last night, I think I try and paint a little bit with my brain as much as I do with my hands, and it's definitely how I feel about somebody. I'm not a portrait painter. I wouldn't be able to do, a Mona Lisa type thing. I'm not really interested in trying to depict people realistically. It's more trying to find layers of depth that are more interesting, at least more interesting to me to look at. And whether that's somebody that I know or a personal connection or a story that I've been inspired by, it just feels like it all comes from me, and I honestly don't really know how they end up looking like they do. I just kind of start and it grows. I know the story and I know what I'm trying to do, but I don't do endless sketches. I don't do like mock-ups or anything like
really?
that. I do a little bit of as I'm going through. I usually my long career history is with digital art, and so I take lots of photos of part-way through works, put them into Photoshop computers, manipulate them, try and find the next step that looks about okay, and then go paint it, and then sort of iterate that loop a little bit.
That is such an interesting process. So you said it was like analog art, paint.
This is yes.
And canvas is analog, but you are bringing that into 2023 by then digitally manipulating images, then going back to paint again.
Yes, I've used computers to do art since I was literally 4 years old, and it's been something I've done forever, and I've had a career in it, and this has had to take a little bit of a back seat because it was so much time and effort to do a job in that world. But now it is the analog stuff that I really want to push. But obviously I have that ability, I have the tools and the knowledge and how to do that, and so that iterative loop is analog, digital, and kind of going around that until you get to something that I think is good. Yeah. That's what I'm at.
So what was your career, or what is your career in digital?
Okay. So I went to university, didn't do anything to do with my career at all. I went for fun.
Tale as old as time, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Went for the fun and the girls. That didn't work. So I had a career in video game art. I worked for a company called Rare for 18 years. Rare were part of Nintendo. They did games for, back in the old days of SNES and NES and Nintendo 64 games consoles. Worked for them for a long time. That was an amazing company that was so creative, not like a game studio today where it's much more of a business machine. It was a creative space, and you were allowed the freedom, I guess, to iterate around things. And the thing the key takeaway that I learned there was how, making something good is very different than making something. Most people, you can make something, you can get a deadline done, or you can make a game in a certain way, but making it good is a whole. The journey between making it and making it good is a world in itself, and that was my education, I think, there, and that's what I try and do here, is try and not be satisfied with just doing something, but try and iterate it and iterate it and iterate it until I think it's good. There
is such a thing with artists, whether it's painters, sculptors, musicians, actors. When you start a project, when do you know it's done? When you do have that perfectionist mindset and you're like, I could do better, I could do better, I could do better. How long do you work on something until you're like, I think we're done here?
Some indeterminate amount of time. I don't know. It just feels, you kind of feel it a little bit. I don't ever really have an end goal I reach. It's like, that looks about right. Yeah. And with painting, because usually I varnish them, and you can't really paint over the varnish, so that's
you have to commit to yourself.
Kind of, okay, I'm done with that, and it's varnished, and I can't really retouch it or do anything with it. So as to when I decide to varnish it and when to stop painting, I don't know. I just look and I guess it's a gut feel. I think that one's about done.
How long did this one take?
These, because it's quite fine, probably a little bit longer than some of the more loose things. Probably this would be in maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that.
That's still quite quick. I thought you were going to say a couple of years or something.
Oh, no. I've only been doing the whole thing for 2 years. No, it's very...
2 years and that's it?
Yeah. I looked back on my phone the other day. I think the first photo that I took of something that I'd painted recently, I've been doing painting throughout, but like in anger, was March last year. So all of the work that has been at the Dubel exhibition was since March.
Ooh, you have a very rapid work ethic. Okay. So talk to me about this one. What's the story?
So this is a part of a series. I did 3 of these, and it was very strange. I was painting something completely different, listening to music through my phone, as people do. It got to the end of my playlist, and I think it was Amazon Music chose some other music for me to listen to that I'd not heard before. And one of them was a band that called themselves Madrugada.
Okay.
I didn't know who they were, completely foreign to me, but found out that the word Madrugada means the time between midnight and when the sun comes up. And so the 3 paintings in this sort of series are fictional characters that live in Madrugada. It's like almost like it's a place rather than a time. And so I called them the Muse, as in she's the slightly sexy character in that world. They all have slightly alcohol or kind of late night references in them. And so the characters they're obviously completely fictional and quite abstract. There's obviously bits missing. She's not a full character.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of sexy element with the praying mantis. The female praying mantis kills the man once they've had sex. So there's a little bit of danger in there. And a bit, yes, that's what it's supposed to be, absolutely. So there's a series of them, but they're all fictional characters that live between midnight and when the sun comes up. That's
a really clever concept. And also I noticed in a few of your paintings you have these kind of colour swatches. So how come you've included those? I love them. They're all the colours that we can see in there. But it's interesting to leave them on.
There's no deep meaning to those. That really is just a sense of balance and composition, and without them they look very sort of naked, these kind of straight lines and things. To me, it just, without them, the painting needed some kind of depth or some balance or something that wasn't there before. Yeah. And there's no deep meaning between which colours I've chosen and how I've arranged it. It's just how I feel. It just arrives on the canvas and it feels like it's the right thing to have added. So
is this one intentionally the English flag?
No, not at all.
Is it not?
No, it isn't. And I hadn't even noticed that before.
Because that honestly looks like an extended version of...
I'd never noticed that before, actually.
Oh, really?
No, I've never seen that.
So it's like, I don't know, something about the culture.
It's literally balance. It's not. There's no depth in that.
But doesn't that show you how... Well, I think that's the brilliant thing about art, right? Is that you were literally the person who painted this, and I'm deducing...
and you see other things. That's fine. And that's, I was slightly reluctant to talk to people about the real detail of what I've done step by step, because I much prefer people to take away what they want to take away and what they see.
If you're like, that just looked nice and I just plonked it there and it doesn't mean anything. If they're like, oh, it evokes feelings of this and that, you're like, let's go with that.
It's much more shallow than that. It's just about balance and what makes a nice image to me, at least. And that's what these little kind of graphic elements are about.
Oh, I love them. So this is the picture that I think everyone at the Dubel Prize was introduced to you by.
Right.
This was the one that we all saw at the Royal Exchange. Yes. Very striking. Can you talk me through the inspirations for this one?
This one was just was an attempt, really. I did it a little while ago, probably a few months ago. An attempt to do something a lot looser, like the other paintings that we've talked about are kind of very fine detailed and slightly intricate and small brushes and that kind of thing. This was an attempt just to do something that was a lot more free and big brushes, not really any detail. If you look here, it's quite rough. There's not really any. It's not a realistic kind of eye, but it has a certain emotion or feeling about it. And I was trying to do something that was, like I say, the colours, the unrealistic colours. There's lots of weird blues and sort of bright reds and things that they're not portrait kind of colours. They're not restricted palette or anything. But it was just trying to bring a sense of an emotion. In this case, obviously, like an angst or fear or something like that. and to depict that in a way that wasn't constrained by a story or anything, just a feeling, an emotion, and that's it. And that's really, and it has, like you say, it's resonated with people probably more than some of the other works, and people have taken their photo next to it, and a lot of that's happened, and I kind of find that interesting. So I'll probably do more like that, I think. And
is this your eye? Because you've got blue eyes, and this is a blue eye, and you also have another painting that's got another bold eye.
Yes.
Eyes are, that kind of intense feeling.
Yeah.
Is that
it's not. This isn't my. The other one is actually my daughter that I managed to get to pose for me for literally 5 minutes before she got too embarrassed and ran off. But yeah, this is not a pose that I think I've probably seen the image somewhere or seen the sort of the intricate contorted pose somewhere. But this came completely from memory. It wasn't a person or an image that I was copying. The other one similarly has a focus on the eye. But that was a deliberate attempt to kind of make a series out of these things and still convey emotion, but make a sort of a group. I tend to paint in groups. I don't really know why. Individual paintings almost don't tell quite enough of a story, and so I like to do series or consecutive things that hang together well.
Do you get through one, you're thinking, I've got so much more to say about this particular theme that I'm going to do another one?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So what's the red background depicting? So you've got quite a few
the red is, I think it was just an attempt to just draw attention. There's no sort of symbolism in the red. It's not a deep meaning, but it's definitely in terms of composition and colours and things.
Very contrasting.
I'm actually very slightly colourblind as well, so red is a thing that I probably see differently than you people. So, I hope it is red.
No, it's actually purple.
Oh, yeah.
Joking. It's bold, and I don't know if it's sort of that angst and distress because you've kind of got some black around the edges. It feels quite imposing.
It's definitely trying to bring that kind of feeling in. And one of my art heroes, I suppose, is Francis Bacon.
Okay.
And a lot of his paintings were on bright red backgrounds or orange. And it just gives it a sense of immediacy that I think certain other colours probably don't. It's definitely about being in it rather than feelings of open space or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, so as I mentioned, also this one was at the Royal Exchange for the first Dubel Prize. What was that moment like when you found out that you were a finalist?
Well, that was amazing. I mean, for any artist, and especially an emerging one, I don't even know if I would call myself that yet, but
I think you've got there. I think we can say you are.
Just the exposure is what you crave. It's not really about anything more than having people see your art. I don't really mind if people love it or hate it, or as long as they don't find it boring. I think that's the key. And the Dubel Prize was an opportunity that seemed to offer exposure almost like no other prize or no other competition. And so that was an amazing opportunity, and to be shortlisted and be able to get these things in front of people that I've not met, that aren't friends and family, that aren't one of my very few followers on Instagram. That was an amazing opportunity, and so really just overwhelmed by that opportunity. Great. What
was the moment that made you think, I'm going to enter this, I'm going to put myself forward?
Yeah, I mean, I did think twice, because part of the submission process was I had to submit a little video of myself talking about art, which is not something I've done very much of. I've done things about video game interviews and things, but about my art and my feelings and the way that things mean things to me, that's a new world, and so that was difficult. And so I did think twice about it, but I went through with it, and unfortunately it was successful.
Well, we're really glad you did. And what's your ambition for the future?
Well, astronaut.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Racing driver. Just I guess the whole intention of doing analog art, as we've called it, is to get reactions from people, to invoke some kind of feeling. Whether that's, like I say, I don't mind if they absolutely hate it. At least that's a reaction. But obviously, I prefer positive reactions. That's really it. Just to get more art in front of more people. It's not really about selling or being in any kind of huge galleries or anything. It's more just having an audience that can see your art and doesn't feel like it's wasted, like I'm doing it for just myself. I will continue to do it irrespective of any of that, but having people see it is where the real joy is for me.
Well, it's a joy that we get to see it, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.